few years ago, we had the opportunity to get a museum, a church donated to us, in the hopes we make it into a museum. That was always in our future. We didn't know how long it would take. It takes a lot of money.
So it was donated?
It was donated, and that was just a dream come true. I mean, it was one of those things, as a board, a leap of faith. Do you want to do it or don't you want to do it? You know, when you take over a building, it does cost, but at the same time, we knew that this opportunity may not come again.
Sure.
And this building is 100 years old. So the whole entire historical theme fits together, and it's got the most wonderful steeple. I really was sold on the steeple because it reminds me of the steeple that in The Longest Day, the movie The Longest Day, red buttons hung with a paratroop silk. And it was a true story of a man that happened to. As the Germans were running around the bottom of the church, he was hanging there plain dead. And this just depicts that exact kind of scene, that this could have happened right here at a church just like this, you know, from the old country, as I would call it.
We have a staff of 5 members that do the light maintenance work, like mowing the lawn, some painting, and watching the building all year round, every day, and any other light items that come up.
Yeah.
When was this last used as a church?
2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. Maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago. Yes, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it doesn't look in bad shape, and you have a pipe organ. You keeping the pipe organ?
At this point, yes, we are keeping the pipe organ. It does work, and it is beautiful. It's, you know, it's amazing. We're actually having open house during D-Day weekend this year, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Karen Kennedy will be here to host that, and people can walk in. There'll be a sign-in, visit. We had visitors from around the country last year that came in, and we had a few things and a concept. She will be here again, and she'll walk you through. There will be artifacts displayed in display cases around here that have been donated to us.
Like what kind of stuff?
Like, for instance, this German Luger is a gun that was just recently donated. It literally is stamped 1938 on it. It's very heavy. I wish you could feel it. It's very heavy. And it was an artifact of the war. Also the bayonet. Cute story came with this bayonet. A family out of Asheville actually donated it on behalf of their fathers. It was their fathers. And the bayonet, the man told me that his father always told him that the bayonet, his job was, he was in administration in England, but on D-Day, everyone was pressed into service, and his dad was thrown on a boat and told to take the bayonet and go with the troops. And when it came time to get off the boat, he was to take the bayonet out and kind of prod them a little if they didn't get off the boat. I'm like, really? He said, you have no idea what went on in the government on D-Day. You know? and that there was a guy behind him with a gun if he didn't get him off the boat. So they anticipated some very, very bad nerves even before they went over. They knew they were going to have, you know, trouble. So whether or not that's true or not, it makes a good story.
It does.
Yeah. So, but there are other artifacts as well. We have medals, people's medals that they have been awarded, their certificates, you know, and certificates of service, grooming kits, uniforms that people have given to us of, you know, relatives that are long lost, and even some that gave them to us, they're still living. And we're actually going to have some people videotaping this year living history stories, personal histories.
That's an excellent idea.
Yes, and hopefully in the future have them for display here at the museum. So, you know, you go to these interactive museums
Right.
and other places, and you can touch a button and hear someone's actual voice. That's what that's our plans. So, you know, we're gonna put the modern element as well in the museum, but we have this beautiful historical building as the background to really put the flavor into it.
You're gonna have to like move pews out.
Yes, we will. For space, we will have to move some pews out. We'll keep a couple for seating,
Right.
but we will have to move some pews out, and they are gorgeous, gorgeous pews. we're working on like, well, okay, now we're just gonna move them out and move them and keep them. They're good on the market. You can get money for them, but they are so gorgeous. You know, it's hard to part with this kind of history. But we do need to make space for display cases. We have had a couple display cases actually donated to us from the Conneaut Historical Museum, which was really nice. And they actually were donated to them from the original Funk City News when the Starlight video went in. And the nice thing about that is it's a piece of Conneaut staying in Conneaut.
Yeah.
And that's nice. So those display cases are here. The cases that we went into the City News and bought our little candies out of. Maybe the older guys bought their cigars. I remember cigars in the boxes. But the display cases are still in history here. We also have some display cases donated from a jewelry store, from a reenactor that knew we needed them and had them actually hauled here from the Toledo area. So we're very lucky to get those wonderful cases, and they're very heavy, they're very beautiful. We actually had to get volunteers to actually pick them up those huge flight of steps in the front of the building and get them in here. We're also looking at building or buying tall display cases where it's like three mannequins or half mannequins can set in, so you can walk around it and get a 3D look at
Like uniforms?
At a uniform, right? We'd like each of the armed force services represented, and we're starting to collect the uniforms for those.
So when will all of this happen? That'll be open. When you plan on having it open like all summer, like the Railroad Museum and the Conneaut Historical Museum?
Right. We're thinking probably to start. We probably would do weekends in the summer. Basically the May to Labor Day kind of thing that everyone does, Memorial Day to Labor Day or what. However, you know, I think the Historical Museum, we probably best follow their hours. The Railroad Museum, that is a hope to get during the weekdays, or maybe we could offer, you know, a Monday or a Thursday here or there or something, and eventually get into even special events that we could house here. The nice thing about the pews is we could have events where it's somebody talking about World War II. We could have, readings. We could have show a movie, something along that line, interactive.
Organ concert.
Organ concerts. Yep. Yeah.
Like some of the concerts that are being held elsewhere.
Right. Like Lakeside was beautiful. I mean, just beautiful. But absolutely, and even to the point where there's memorial services, we could have that as well. The nice thing about the church too is, just the architect alone, but also that there's a full basement under here, and that helps us organize a lot of our.
It looks like you're using
items.
that for some storage now.
We are right now. We do expect to use that eventually for part of the museum as well.
Oh, really?
Yes. We want this to be a complete museum. We don't want this to be a storage unit at any in any way. But right now, with it not being open, we are using it that way. But no, we want a 2-story museum and utilize as much space as possible. So that's going to take some doing because of when you open to the public, the handicap accessibility and everything. That's going to take the funding, and we've got a couple grants. The Morrison Foundation gave us some grants for plumbing and electrical, and the Conneaut Foundation gave us some grants as well. And that seed money has helped us get down the road a bit and get some work done. But we would need, we need a lot more. We need a lot more to get this. And it's going to be an ongoing, because Karl will tell you that the 5 people that come and check on the building, there's been a few incidents where, we do live in Northeast Ohio. there's been a few surprises where there was water in the basement one day or something froze. So we're very lucky to have the caretakers here on a daily basis and ward off any real
So
damages.
you guys come in like February 3rd and 4th and look in here and make sure that there's nothing bad going on.
Right, about every other day in the wintertime.
Yeah. So it's the caretaking of the building, but it's watching the maintenance as well. And so we're very lucky to have some volunteers that have that kind of background and that kind of they take the time.
Are you looking for donations then for the
Yes, we are. And people can be specific in their donations. Some people feel like, they don't want necessarily to give to a reenactment or a weekend event. You want to see your money exactly go to a certain thing or a place. This is bricks and mortar. You know, with donations, there's different schools of thought, and we'll take your money and put it to whatever use you wish it to go to would be fine. For instance, the stand-up display cases are going to cost a couple $1,000s, but if you want Dad's, you know, uniform displayed properly and the way you want it to see the you know, the public to see it the best, you know, help us get there, help us build that.
Will this be primarily just World War II? I mean, would you get into Korean War at all, or World War I, or?
We're primarily going to be the 1940s home front and war. We will take anything that has to do with the 1940s era of World War II. But World War II, depending on which historian you talk to, started in World War I and comes through, and you know, goes a little bit past that. But basically the 1940s. Yeah.
You could do looking at stuff like the home front, Victory Garden.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Big band music. And that kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Because everyone was involved in World War II. It wasn't just those that went overseas. World War II. I mean, I hear more and more stories, getting more and more involved, of the people that watched the lakefront here, right on Lake Erie, because we were going to be in the fear of getting invaded, and. You know, that was, you know, there's a movie, 1941.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how historically accurate.
Yeah, no. But yet it brings up points of, you know, the homeland was also, I mean, we have a lot, in Canada, you know, we have a lot of land to defend. We're talking about that right now with homeland borders, and we were worried, and so there were people, you know, that were pressed into action, that were volunteers that watched the beach here in Conneaut, and the lifeguard chairs that were up there, the tall lifeguard chairs. When I was a kid, they were still there, and you know, sitting up there and watching with the binoculars, and all night long. And also, Catherine Gamble tells me a story about her dad being the one that went around in the town that she lived in and made sure all the lights were out at a certain time. And that was his job, to go around the town and make sure everyone's lights were out. And she would turn on her light and peek out the window and get yelled at by him and try to get caught. So, you know, great stories like that. But also the artifacts. We recently had, Roy Pratt had something that he had found in one of his relatives' homes that was a box that actually was meant to be sent overseas and had never been opened. And at a volunteer meeting, he opened it, and it was food that was supposed to go over there. And was it beer? I think there was some beer. Beer was in there, and letters that were sent over there, and newspaper clippings from here to be sent overseas. And it was a treasure trove.
Yeah.
Treasure trove. So, you know, those kind of things are just as important. Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. The flags that hung in the stars, the blue stars that hung in windows. I mean, all of those are things that we may remember because, you know, we're a little older maybe, and we remember hearing about it, but we also remember it. The young ones have no idea.